Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Brittany here with another video to help you guys live a happy, healthy, awesome life in a wheelchair. And today, I'm going to show you an interview that I recently did with Margaret about life with a caregiver. If you guys are confused who Margaret is, she's my friend who's a quadriplegic. We had some questions a little while ago from some viewers asking about what her day looks like with a caregiver. And so we sat down to talk about that, what her caregiver does for her, how often she has a caregiver, what she helps her with besides just personal care, all of those things, what her husband thinks about life with a caregiver, all of that stuff. And the interview that you're going to see is all of her answers to those questions. I did an intro to the interview on that video, and it was just annoying because I was darting everywhere with my eyeballs when I was thinking about what to say, and it looked awful. So I'm just redoing it here so that you guys aren't annoyed like I was when you're watching this intro. But anyway, without further ado, here is the interview I did with Margaret recently about life with a caregiver. If you have any questions, as always, leave them in the comments and we will try to answer them. Enjoy!
The majority of the things that I need a hand with are small tasks here and there. And I mentioned before that I am incredibly slow at getting them done if I can do them independently. So basically, Monday through Friday, my caregiver shows up at about 6:30 in the morning, and I'm typically still in bed. Sometimes if I have to get up and go to the washroom, I'll be up and I'll do that. But and I've had some troubles with my shoulders over the last several years, so probably more so now than ever, having a caregiver do things that are helpful for me that, yeah, I can do, but if I continue to do them every day, all day long, I won't have my shoulders at all. So she will typically give me a quick hand to sit up in bed. And then from there, I do my own stretches, stretching my feet, stretching my legs. And she'll grab a thing or two for me to start my bowel routine. I insert my own suppository. And again, while I'm doing all those things, she's gathering up some laundry, or she's just basically waiting around the corner and waiting for me to go, okay, come on back in. And because we have a routine that is similar every morning, there doesn't have to be an awful lot of speaking.
Oh.
Which is great when my husband decides to stay home, and he is almost never still in bed. He's almost always up. He's up around 6. He's got a coffee clutch he goes to at 7. And so he's almost always up, but there are the odd times that he's just really tired, he's not well or whatever. And the routine is he rolls over and keeps on sleeping. We just do our thing. And years ago we established that habit. Before he kind of had a job where he was the boss, owned a business, needed to be there early in the mornings, that sort of thing. And so he's either rolled over and continued to sleep, or he's up and busy before she comes in. And so then she'll basically, while I'm waiting for the bullet to work, the suppository, she's sort of buzzing around the bedroom, making a bed. We're talking about the other stuff I might need a hand with her in the day. And then she'll often come and she will steady my chair while I'm hopping on the toilet. And then I'm on my own during my bowel routine, and during that period of time, she'll come out here. She's my hands and feet, really. So if Paul's off and gone to work, she will come and see if there's stuff that hasn't been cleaned up that we didn't clean up for supper the night before. She'll probably empty the dishwasher if it's full of stuff. And she's always, while she's waiting for me for the next thing she needs to help me with, she's looking around for stuff to do. So she helps me with my homemaking. I don't leave her a pigsty because she's not a maid, but it is certainly really, really helpful. I know that when I'm on my own, because either she's sick or I'm away in California, my day, I call it, I chase my tail. I'm busy staying alive and tidying and doing housework while I'm away, or I choose to just say fuck it for some stuff that doesn't bring me any joy for a little while, and I'll leave it off to the side for a bit. So, I do my bowel routine, And I hop on and off the toilet by myself because I don't do digital stimulation. I time my bowel motility and contractions and deposits. So when I see that there's like 10 minutes in between, I like hop off and stay right beside the toilet. So I'm often getting back on for one last deposit. And I mean, it doesn't work logistically for me to call her to come stand by me or something like that. So once I'm certain that I'm empty and I'm ready to roll into the shower, again, I get her to come in, give me a hand to hold my chair while I'm hopping in the shower, do all my personal care in the shower, shaving, washing hair, drying my body. And again, I hop out of the shower on my own, do my own personal grooming. Next large portion is I am very, very fortunate that she does like lower leg massage for me almost every morning.
Really?
Yeah.
Like lymph drainage?
Yeah.
Is that something that you established or she established? Like you asked her to do that?
Mm-hmm. No, I've been doing that for a while. When I do a little bit here and there for years and years, but I wasn't really consistent with it until after I broke my leg and I had a lot of swelling that wouldn't go down. I didn't have a shoe that would fit. And I didn't want to be getting off my butt all day long to get my feet up all the time. I'll be 100% honest, I didn't want the hassle of that, and this was very helpful. So, so she does that, and then she gives me a hand to whip up my pants, helps me get my undies up and my pants up, and straighten my clothes, make sure I don't have any wrinkles underneath. If I kind of start out with a decent foundation in terms of where my clothes are, my sitting tolerance is a lot better throughout the day. I have less issues with skin, and I'm finding as I get a little older and every year that goes by that I'm injured, my butt skin is a lot less robust.
I find that too. I have to really watch now. Like, when I was 25, I could sit all day, didn't matter how I was moving or what I was sitting on or
worry about a wrinkle underneath.
Now I'm like, where my panty lines are matters.
Yes.
Like, it's seriously, like, that's one thing that I don't think I ever really paid much attention to until my skin got less robust, like less strong as I've gotten older. And panty lines if they go right across your sit bones, no. That's why like those high cut underwear, don't wear those.
And flat seams, like I love.
Yeah, flat
seam underwear.
Me too. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
I like boy shorts because they fall on the other side of your sit bones, the right side. And then I try to get seamless underwear that have the long flat seam.
But you know what I do when I do have a bit of a skin issue?
Yeah.
I wear hanky-panky thongs.
Yeah.
So that it's out of the way of my panty line. They're just thick enough that they hold everything still in, and they cover my butthole and give me a day or two break from where those. Because when I do have a little skin problem, even flat seamed undies
will be an issue.
Problematic. So I try to go commando even.
Yeah, see the commando thing. I was wondering about that because I've heard, and I don't know if this is an actual thing, but I've heard that thongs can be like a highway for bacteria.
So I make a compromise, right?
only for a little while. But
yeah.
It's funny how like these little things that you don't think about when you're first paralyzed, and if you're young, maybe you don't have to worry about because for a while
because your skin's great.
Yeah, your skin's great.
Well, and you got padding on your butt, and I got some, but I don't have enough.
Yeah, once you aging, losing a lot of the padding becoming fat, not muscle, like a bunch of the things that just, work against you. So you really have to pay attention to that. And with you talking about her helping you pull up your pants, I don't know if you guys watched the video, but those are one of the things that I always say, like, you have to balance the things that you can do with the things that you should do. Because in the video we did in real time with you pulling up your pants, I think it was 5 minutes. And is that really a good use of your time when you have somebody that's here that can just roll you over, whip your pants up in 2.5 seconds? So anybody with a disability that's watching this, you really need to manage your shoulds and coulds. Like whether you could doesn't matter all the time. It's whether you should. Kind of play around with what is the thing that I still want to do with my abilities. And for you, that's like hand cycling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And so that's what I often move to, is she gives me a hand to help me in and out of my bike. I can't transfer low down into the bike, so I actually transfer onto either the lift on my van.
We have not done this video.
Oh, we totally could.
Remember we were going to do this? Sorry, I just like broke that up. Anyway, she gives you a hand into your hand cycle.
So I either do it off the lift, or when it's winter and I'm doing riding indoors, I have a modified bath lift that I don't use in the bathtub to get in and out of my bike. And then while I'm gone, she's buzzing around and doing a few more things. And if I get back in time, or I always get back in time because I need a hand out as well. And again, it's steadying things, it's helping me position my feet. And honestly, on the odd occasion when I've got like very, very low energy, I'm not feeling well, she'll just like give me a
pick you up. Yeah.
She works in long-term care.
Oh, I love people that work in long-term care.
Yeah, and then her first client when she first started doing this work was, she was not a live-in but a full-time caregiver for someone with very high mobility barriers. And so she did total care for that person. So this is kind of a piece of cake for her.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and on the days when I'm not riding, we have time, she will work side by side in the kitchen to do stuff. Like I'll get out a recipe, and what I'll need is a whole bunch of prep work done. She'll package that all up. Because she's here 6:30 to 11:30. She's not here the rest of the day.
That's what I was wondering. What are the times? So she kind of just, if you're going to cook supper and you want this recipe, she's cutting the onions or whatever so that you're just dumping it in the pan.
Yeah, so I'm not spending 3 hours making a meal or whatever. And it's just, that's super helpful. I have in the past had a schedule where I've had 3 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. While it's convenient in some ways that I have somebody back here to help me get supper on the go, like in real time at supper time, it kind of limits me in terms of I gotta be out and about and do all my stuff and get back here for 4 or 4:30 or whatever. So I actually kind of like this schedule a little bit better. It's just a wham bam. It's a very fast, like 5 hours in the morning. And then, yeah, if I've worked out in the morning, she'll give me a hand to transfer back onto the bed and change into something else for the rest of the day. And that's kind of the quick and dirty version.
Yeah. So I guess it's not a full day. So some people do have a full day of a caregiver or intermittent blocks of time. And yeah, if you're independent, like in the evening with getting on the bed and taking off your clothes, which is always faster.
I was gonna say, yeah, getting naked is easier.
Then that's, yeah. I like that you sort of pre-plan your day, which probably forces you to like meal plan and stuff. To go like, what do I need done? And I remember you saying when we were talking about the kitchen thing, that you have like, you know, cheese cut up or the vegetables cut up, whatever, dips made, all that stuff. Is that your caregiver that's doing it? Is that Cherry?
It's a little column A and a little bit of column B.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's just like whatever's easy for you to do, you'll do, and
totally.
If it's time consuming and annoying, you'll get her to do it.
Yep.
How about like laundry and stuff?
She does all of our laundry.
Oh,
mine
that's
and
awesome.
my husband's laundry.
Yeah.
Just because it doesn't make sense to just do mine if
Yeah.
she's throwing loads in. Or she'll put stuff in, I'll pull it out. So yeah, so she does pretty much all my homemaking because there's enough time in between.
Other than cooking.
Other than cooking.
Yeah.
As in between the tasks, the personal care tasks, there's enough time. She's super efficient. She's so fast. She's just, you know, I ask her, can you do this? Oh, it's done. Okay.
Yeah.
1,000 years ago when I was first having caregivers come, like when I was in my 20s and living on my own at the beginning before I met Paul, I did have nighttime care that would come at the very end of the day and help me into bed. And very shortly after Paul and I met and we knew we were going to be together for quite some time, he voiced the desire to not have a caregiver at night, to give us flexibility, to give us that private space. And so he has, whenever it was necessary, sort of taken on a little bit of a role, but there isn't much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I get my clothes off and he throws them into the hamper for me.
Yeah, exactly.
That's about the extent of it at this point. And in fact, having a caregiver in our life has been it's probably one of the reasons that we have lasted for a very long time. I think if he had to do a lot more of the personal care tasks, it would be a huge tax on us.
It's no different than having babies. This is like, it is a stressful situation.
Yeah.
So you love your child more than anything, but it adds stress.
Mm-hmm.
Lack of sleep, having to care for somebody that is, you know, different than your own body. It's hard and stressful. So not that like it's, you know, an anomaly that like people that are caregivers to one another in relationships have stress. That's not weird. That's not weird.
Yeah.
It's natural.
Yeah, and even to the point where Paul will say when we go on vacation somewhere where it's really not known what the access is going to be like, he will often say, like, it's just not a vacation for me.
It's not a vacation for you either.
Humping me in and out of a shower or whatever. Yeah, it's stressful. It's just not the best setup. So if we kind of are going someplace urban, I'll even look and find a caregiver a couple of times just on the, like one of my friends calls it double down days. Like do shit in the shower and the whole thing all in one visit, get somebody to come in and just give me a hand to get that done. And it leaves my husband to be himself. He is up, he goes out, he grabs a coffee, he comes back, or he goes for a run. Or we're often going, when we're going away, we're going somewhere where it's an event that he's going to, or me, but more often it's him that we're going to something for, where it's in the car club or what have you. And so he's able to get up and go and meet.
Yeah, like
things
do things
that make him who he is.
Yeah.
And something that's relatively new in the home care system, if there's a partner in the home, they actually do a stress assessment on the spouse. So every year he does an interview over the phone with my case coordinator, and they redo a stress assessment with him. And
that's
caregiver.
Kind of awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think like understanding where the line is for somebody for their own mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Because like I said, with babies, there is a point where like some people just need help.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're never getting that, you know, people that don't have family nearby with babies or whatever, there's a point where your stress undermines the joy that you would normally otherwise have with this, you know, thing that you love. And that's the same in any relationship. If you're doing too much for one person and your stress level gets high, and that level's different for everybody, because there are some people that can be full-time caregivers to their spouse, and it is not stressful. Yeah, mine wouldn't be either.
No. I was reminded of that last year when I came out of surgery and I needed a Fleet enema, and I joked around a bit. I was like, so you ready? Ready to go for a trip up Fleet Street? And he was just like sheet white, and he's like, no.
Yeah.
So Cherry came in and did it for me, and I was relieved. We were both relieved.
Yeah.
And so now I call her my poo doula.
That's so funny.
Coaxing that poo out. Anyways.
That's really funny. Okay. I think that the last thing that I really wanted to know was the dynamic, how long it takes you to get comfortable with a caregiver. Because I know you've had very long-term caregivers, but is it hard, to find somebody that you have a good dynamic with, or do you just go, this person is here, I'm not changing? Or do you actually try and find somebody that fits with you and you're comfortable with? And how long does it take to establish a comfort level that it's not like awkward? Because everything's awkward at first when somebody's helping you do things that are intimate.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to only have to hire 3 times for a long-term caregiver in 22 or 3 years since I started self-managed care. And the first person that worked for me actually worked for the agency that sent her out. before I went on to self-managed care. So she was a known entity. So I didn't have to hire anybody in that sense. But anytime you have a new caregiver coming in from a home care company, I've just gotten used to, I have the spiel.
Oh.
I'm like, so this is how the day goes. I need a lot of help or like a little help across a long period of time.
Yeah.
And this is what it looks like. And while I'm doing that, if you could be doing these other things, that would be great. So
orientation.
It's a short orientation.
Yeah.
So the first person I had for a number of years, she kind of already knew the job. Second time around, and I'm at the mercy of the economy always. So the second time around, I applied through the Canada Job Bank, in the Edmonton Journal and the Sun when it was a paper newspaper. There wouldn't have been any Kijiji or any of that at that time. And I had one person apply for the job.
Really?
Yeah. And so I did. At that time, I just took who came. We had a long relationship, like a dozen years or so. And it was good, but it wasn't a good personality match. Very different value sets, likes, dislikes. And so there was a lot of tension there. And tension ramped up significantly during COVID. And you know what? I did just decide that I was just going to put up with it. And woulda, coulda, shoulda, maybe I would have made a different choice. But I think in a lot of ways you can work with somebody and figure out your boundaries and get to the place you need to get to. That said, this time around, I did do 2 rounds of recruitment. I did not have the first person stay for longer than, I think she was here 60 days. And it just, there was some breach of trust. And also, she just wasn't getting it. It was constant hand-holding that I felt like I needed. She's like, okay, now I swept, now what? Okay.
Oh, you don't want that.
While I don't need you to run my house, I need you to grab the ball and run with it a little bit. Just like you would do sort of in your own house, check in with me though and go like, do you want to do this now? Should I do this?
Or in a job, you know what I mean? Like, you know generally what your tasks are, and you do them independently, and you don't ask every day, do I need to send this email? Yeah.
Well, in the day in, day out part of this job, you could figure out pretty quick. So getting familiarized with your day-to-day in your job, your workflow shouldn't have taken as much time as it did for the first person. So second round of recruitment, the economy, people were going back to work. They weren't as afraid about working, away from home anymore. And so I had a much bigger roster of candidates. I probably had a dozen resumes. I think I invited 5 people for the interviews. 3 showed up. 2 were finalists, so to speak. And then cherry just above and beyond was the best candidate. And it was a very quick familiarization and just falling into a rhythm.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting, the caregiver receiver relationship is a delicate one to balance because I see her more than I see my husband some days. And so being professional has a different definition. You have to have a little bit of intimacy in order for both people to enjoy it. Otherwise it's really not a fun job. Beyond the feeling of accomplishment when the house is neat and tidy and I got, my clothes around me straight. So there has to be more to it than that. And so I feel like this is a really great match with this gal now. She's fantastic.
That's awesome. I don't think I have any more questions. I think that answered the question. What does your day look like with a caregiver? Keep in mind, this is different than what somebody would need that has full-time care or that has more needs in terms of personal care. But like Margaret said before, she can only be who she is, and she can only talk about what she has and does. So I think that's really it, unless you have any last words about life with a caregiver. For anybody that's newly injured, super intimidated about having a caregiver, not sure if it's going to affect relationships, that kind of stuff.
One thing that I would say is it's easy to fall into, when you're newly injured or you're new to having a caregiver in your life, it's easy to fall into a role of allowing your caregiver to determine what care you should have. And that's nobody's business but yours, unless someone has determined that you can't make good choices. So as the employer, you have every right to have your care done the way that you want it done, and to run your household the way that you want it run, and to have the products used that you want used. And myself, I've been guilty of that in the past as well. Not so much in the more recent past decade or so, but that's something I think that's really, really important to note.
So basically boundaries, making sure you establish clear boundaries and that you are the boss.
Yes, you truly is employer-employee relationship.
I have heard this more than once with quad friends, and it's like you say, it's a delicate balance, and here and there, the caregiver is not going to be perfect. They're gonna cross a boundary. They're gonna inflict their opinion or their preference or values onto something that they're helping you with. So it's probably not a perfect thing, but establishing clear boundaries is really important, because you never want the dynamic to shift where your caregiver is higher than you in terms of like decision making, power, all of that stuff, because that's a recipe for just an erosion of your confidence as a person.
Yes, totally.
Victim mentality, feeling like a burden, all of those things. And like you said before, your life is about autonomy. It's autonomy. You can have an independent life as long as you have that autonomy, and you're the one making the decisions, and you're the one that is leading the charge, so to speak. So I think that's a really great thing to end on. If you guys have questions specifically about life with a caregiver, you can just throw them in the comments, and then I will ask Margaret. Typically she kind of watches the videos, but if she doesn't, I usually send her a screenshot. So we'll always address whatever questions you have if they're specifically for Margaret. Other than that, that's all we've got for you today.
The quick and dirty one.
The quick and dirty, yeah. We'll catch you back here on another video. Bye.
Take care.